But there's this honeymoon phase, and everybody's like the shiny new thing, and oh, we're so happy to have you. And build the plan. We know you're a genius in this area. You come in and you bring the plan, and you start to do things a little bit differently. And they're like, well, it's not really what we were thinking. Go back and see what you can do about that. And then they lean over to somebody, get her some coaching, get her buttoned up, and then you go back and you do it some more, and then the friction builds. It just keeps building. And then when you finally knock that ball out of the ballpark and you're shining, someone doesn't like it. And the reason why they don't like it, let's face it, we're back to no thanks. And we ground it and do some table setting and no thanks. If white men are centered in the workplace, by race and by gender, black women are the double outsider. So they do not expect you to be in that environment leading. Even subconsciously, they just don't see it. Some of us don't expect it. A lot of us don't expect it. So when you see a sister walk in, own the place like Jim would, it bothers some folks. It just, and this stuff goes all the way back to slavery. We won't even get into that. I traced it back in no thanks, but some of this activity I trace all the way back to slavery. And I did mention epigenetics in this book about the imprint on our DNA from our trauma.
Yes.
And guess what? White folks have it too. So there's some stuff that Karen's pulling, that Chad's pulling, subconsciously, they don't even know why they do it. But it goes all the way back to plantation. Anyway, so yeah, we have to be able to center ourselves, that's no thanks, and then begin to make moves for ourselves, that's no thanks too. So now you're in this room, and we talked about the isolation. So the next point that I want to raise is around, black women either get pushed out, they leave on their own because they're fed up, or they get pulled out. Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is all about getting pulled out. And this is the first time that I have ventured into the personal life in the business book, because it matters. Your mate, partner, can make or break your career. Period. They're either supportive or they're not. It comes in all shapes, forms, and sizes. But I have run across, anecdotally, enough women who have been burdened with the burden of the house, the emotional labor of the relationship. All of that falls on her. Plus, she's got this high octane job. Now, mind you, she's not getting paid to do the housework. And this is the thing that I bring out in the book. Even as a stay-at-home housewife, she's not getting paid. Doesn't get paid for that. No. Kids are hard. Kids are hard. Kids are hard. Jocelyn, kids are hard. Yes, and yours is little. She hasn't grown up yet. Kids are hard. And we have the house that we want to be spotless, and we have cooking. We want the cuisine to be on point, whether it's home cooking or whatever. And if we're doing all that stuff, how can we be centered and ready to go into war at work? And typically what happens is, when you show any bit of, work is really getting to me, this special brand of brother or whoever he might be says, oh, well, honey, why don't you just come home? Just come home. I'll take care of everything. Don't worry about work. Don't worry about work. And some of us go for that. And when I say some of us, I'm talking about those of us who have actively used our mind and used it for business and producing in the community. We can fall for that, especially when we're absolutely positively tired. But we haven't weighed where all the tiredness is coming from. It isn't just at work. What if you got help at home and found another job that wasn't so toxic? Isn't that an option?
It should be.
But somehow, some of us get waylaid into staying home, homeschooling the kids. Like, it becomes a whole... And then you sit there and you're going, but I wanted to lead I wanted to do some business. And that's when I mentioned the Proverbs 31 woman.
Yes.
Do we want to have this conversation?
Yes.
Okay. How many of you have read the book so far? Have you gotten to chapter 5? Okay, all right. So, the thing is, when I break apart the idea, or fracture the idea of culture and how it impacts the way we act and think, so many of us, not everybody, part of it is our faith in our churchiness. And sometimes I call it churchiness because it has nothing to do with faith. Those things that we have just traditionally done. We don't even know why, but we blame it on Jesus.
You give the credit.
Right. Or, yeah, all of that. When you really pick it apart, it probably has nothing to do with that. But Proverbs 31 woman is usually tossed in the face of working women. Have you heard that?
Yes.
And it's usually, well, I want a Proverbs 31 woman. And it usually means that she cooks, she cleans, she births them babies. You know, she's barefoot and pregnant. She's all of these things. Those things are not bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm a mom myself. I love to cook. I'm good at it. But the Proverbs 31 woman is a little bit more than that if you look at what's going on.
Yes.
She was a woman of business. She was a broker. She dealt in real estate. She went into the city and she got gold for her trades. She brought cloth home to her female servants, which means she probably had some male ones around there too.
Yes, she did.
She had people. And this was not described as a wealthy family. Hint, hint, $19 on TikTok. You can get your house clean. Did you see that? $19. Get your house clean. But there are people who will argue with you about having folks come into your house to help.
Yes.
This lady had nannies. She had chefs. She had, I don't know what all the servants were doing, but she had folks that took care of everything, plowed the fields and everything. She managed the house. That meant she was in charge of the workers. So the workers did it, but she was telling them what to do. But here's the other piece of it. The Proverbs 31 man. He's in there. A lot of people don't recognize that there's a man in that chapter. Anybody know what it says about the man? Anybody? You think about it?